Well, Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, are not working royals. They've made that repeatedly and screamingly clear to anyone who wants to hear it. Podcasters, authors, influencers, jam sellers, sure. But they left us in no doubt when they left Britain and the royal family that their royal duties were done. No more flower shows on a wet Wednesday in Stoke. So it came as something of a surprise to many of us this week when the formerly royal couple landed in Nigeria in Africa to embark on what looked, sounded and felt very much like a normal official royal tour. In fact, it ticked every single box on the royal tour clipboard. It was a lavish welcome ceremony, festooned in traditional decorations and attended by glad-handing local dignitaries. There were photo opportunities at local schools and warm handshakes with beaming children. There was a visit to the state governor house with speeches and tributes from officials. This was certainly no holiday, nor was it a private visit. It was a renegade royal operation in full swing. And a booming look at what you could have won message to their ailing family in Windsor. Meghan even revealed that she is Nigerian after taking a DNA test. But as she explained to audiences in her typically humble and self-effacing style, the clues were there all along.
And what has been echoed so much, really, in the past day by men and women alike is, oh, we weren't surprised when we found out that you were Nigerian. Oh, no. And I say that mostly as a compliment to all of you, because what they define as a Nigerian woman is brave, resilient, courageous, powerful.
Humbling is the word you'd associate with her, isn't it? Well, Harry and Meghan knew exactly what they were doing, of course, and I'm sorry, I'm very cynical about it. In the build-up to their wedding, commentators heralded the boundary-breaking power of the newly biracial monarchy. That fact has been lost in the onslaught of race-baiting the couple have unleashed ever since. But I know it's true because I wrote that myself on the day of the wedding. Drop it. The actual royal family, meanwhile, has an increasingly fraught relationship with the former colonial nations, not helped by the brazen and discredited accusations of racism flowing from the Sussexes themselves. Prince William and Princess Catherine were pilloried for perceived missteps on a tour of Jamaica, where they shook hands with locals through a chain-link fence. The royals are met with ill-conceived demands for reparations and apologies for ancestral sins on every royal tour these days, culminating in King Charles saying this in a speech in Rwanda.
It seems to me that there are lessons in this for our Commonwealth family. For while we strive together for peace, prosperity and democracy, I want to acknowledge that the roots of our contemporary association run deep into the most painful period of our history. I cannot describe the depths of my personal sorrow at the suffering of so many, as I continue to deepen my own understanding of slavery's enduring impact.
Important to remember that it was Britain, of course, who began the end of slavery. Never gets mentioned in any of these debates. But they knew the context of Sussexes. If there's one thing we learned about Harry and Meghan's family trashing, money-grabbing strategies since they quit the UK and the royal duty, it's that they don't do anything by accident. Every frame of this trip was storyboarded for maximum impact. Clearly, the lucrative deals that fund their lavish Californian lifestyle might be running a little dry.
Perfect.
Rebooting this rent-a-royal racket is a profitable way of rekindling interest in their fading brand. Some commentators are even speculating that Meghan fancies herself as a future American president. And to be fair, the campaign slogans, well, they write themselves. Make America hate again, build back bitter, or maybe just lock her up. Well, join me to discuss all this, author and historian Tessa Dunlop, Laura Paula Rowan Adrian, royal editor Sarah Houston, and from Los Angeles, the royal commentator and the host of Kinsey Schofield Unfiltered. Right. Kinsey Schofield, welcome to all of you. All right, Sarah, let's start with you. I mean, I watched this stuff there on a peripheral level, perfectly successful trip. I'm sure they're thrilled. The real concern is that we now have two royal families. We have the official royal family, who represent the monarchy, and we have these two now pretending that they are another official arm of the royal family. There ain't room for two, is there?
Well, what's marked about this, I've spent many a week and month covering royal tours, and this does look and feel like a royal tour. It had all of the ingredients there. The difference being they weren't acting on the behest of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. They were invited by the Nigerian Chief of the Defence Staff. I don't have a massive problem with them going out to Nigeria to work around the Invictus Games, and actually what Harry has done around the Invictus Games
Have a drink.
Needs to be lauded and praised, credit where credit is due. But what they were doing is effectively what they wanted to achieve from that infamous Sandringham summit. They wanted to be financially independent, they wanted to go and live their lives away from the royal family, but they wanted to dip in and out where they could. They said they wanted to continue to support the Crown and the Commonwealth. And you'll remember that statement that was put out at the time of Megxit, where there was that comment, slightly veiled comment, that everyone can serve, service is universal. And I think from their perspective, that's what they're doing, continuing to serve. But yes, it did look like a royal tour, and particularly notable because we haven't had any big royal tours.
No, well, the reason
like
for that...
this, because of COVID, because of the
Well,
King...
Also, let's remind ourselves, Tessa Dunlop, before you launch into your impassioned defence, no doubt, of how wonderful this all is, that the King of this country is currently stricken with cancer and can't perform the duties he wants to perform. And his son and heir, his wife, also has cancer and can't perform duties. So as the senior members of the royal family here are stricken by very serious illness, the very, very last thing they want is to have these two coming in from California and effectively supplanting them on these unofficial royal tours, soaking up all the attention that should be on the actual people who put the shifts in for duty in this country, not the renegades filling their pockets. Discuss.
Small case of sour grapes on your part, I think.
Why?
Piers? Well, because...
I've already said from their point of view, very successful. It's not sour grapes. There's no room for two royal families doing the same thing.
It clearly is. I mean, we're sitting here discussing it. Newspapers have been full of it. You've said yourself that one royal family's out of action. So up they step. Your issue is they're not being dutiful in the name of Great Britain.
No.
And you are a fiendish patriot, as we know, and a very proud...
Hang on, no, it's because they've been given their titles by the British monarchy. They weren't given them by the Nigerian monarchy or the California monarchy. They were given these titles, which they now exploit for vast financial gain, by the monarchy of this country.
And we've been through this before, Piers.
Yeah.
Once a prince, always a prince. You are the one who believes passionately in hereditary monarchy. But let's just also remember, you choose the word stricken, and the king's been up against it. Not a young man. Nasty cancer diagnosis, treatment. He's been brave, he's been open. But he has been out and about. He did have time to award his son very publicly the Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps. Overlapping, you could say deliberately, with the Nigerian Corps, having not been able to find time to have a little cup of tea with his second son. There was no great prodigal son greeting.
Oh, sorry, are you
honest.
suggesting in some way that the king and his heir of this country should plan their schedules around what Meghan and Harry are doing on the renegade tours? They should ring them up after they've been trashed by them for years and say, hey, by the way, are you doing any tour stuff this week? Because we quite fancy doing our jobs. It's outrageous.
Chill out. All I'm suggesting is if there was improved communication, if the king had found
They don't talk to each other.
But actually, they could have talked to each other last week.
Why?
And there was an active decision, clearly on the part of the royal family, that there was to be no overlap between Harry and Charles.
You know why?
And you know, the optics weren't great around that.
Actually, you know what?
Might speak to people like old men like you in grey suits.
No, I'd have done exactly the same thing, Paula. You're a family lawyer. I'm afraid if one of my sons went rogue like this with his wife and spent years trashing my family in public in the way that they've done, causing immeasurable damage at a time when Philip died, the Queen died, Charles has cancer, Kate has cancer, they wouldn't get 1 second of my time.
Down the aisle.
And let me tell you
No,
why.
they wouldn't.
And let me tell you why they would.
Well, you can't tell me what I think.
Because time...
Sorry, with respect,
Well,
you can't tell me what I would do.
What
I'm telling you, they would get zero time.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to change your mind.
Go on, then.
And that's the important lesson here.
Good luck with that.
Because we saw this with King Charles when he was Prince Charles and the fallout from his divorce with Diana. We saw them both sell their stories. First of all, behind a veil, telling us that it was through the voice of others and had nothing to do with them.
Perfect.
And it was only after, sadly, the loss of Diana that we found out through Andrew Morton that actually he had met with her in person. In the same way that we understand that Prince Charles had met with Jonathan Dimbleby and done work with him. So we've been here before. Prince Charles knows, King Charles, forgive me, he knows about selling stories. He knows about the damage that can be done
Charles has never sold a story in his life.
Family stories
Charles has never sold a story.
Exposed. When family stories...
When did Charles sell a story?
Family stories...
Hang on, when did he sell a story?
Dimbleby, she's right. The Dimbleby Prince of Wales book was done
Sell
with
a story?
Charles's... No, but he doesn't need to sell anything.
Get a cheque for it.
At the time, he was paid by the civil list, but he did help
didn't get paid
facilitate...
for it.
But he helped facilitate it, which built the royal brand.
Right.
Which built his brand.
The royal
within
family
brand.
take part all the time in brand-related stuff.
Piers,
That is part of the job of being a royal.
Piers.
He didn't get paid.
Piers, you know that what I'm saying at the very bottom level, at the foundation level is... We've been here before.
Actually, we haven't been here before.
This family have sold stories about each other before.
You're missing the point.
What is important now is that we learn to move forward.
How?
And we have seen how Prince Harry and Meghan have moved forward. And they've done so brilliantly.
You loved it.
Impressively.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, in a very statesman-like way.
Can we be honest?
And I think that the issue here is not actually that you're unhappy that they've done this.
Right.
What you're unhappy about is that they've done it so well.
No, I started by saying it's been successful for them. What I'm unhappy about is that they are now constructing a rival royal family, but they're not putting any shift in of actual duty.
Oh, yeah.
Which is part of the contract with the British people.
Well, then let's invite them back.
They've deserted the country,
invite them back.
they've deserted their family, and now they're setting up a rival thing for one reason. Nothing else they've done commercially has been working recently. Right, so now they're playing the. Now they're playing. Actually, we're royals again.
Incredibly
we're
well.
royals again. Carl.
Remember, Spare was the #1 bestseller in the UK.
I said recently.
It was the #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Recently.
I think what we
Archwell
need
is doing well. It's a charitable foundation.
Hang on. What we need actually is to let Kinsey have a word. Kinsey, you're in America. I mean, I was in the States recently, LA actually, and New York, and I've got to say there was a lot of visceral dislike for the Sussexes. They were being really depicted by people that I spoke to as people who were like,
Have a drink.
you know, rent a celebrity now, prepared to do anything, and their only currency was trashing their family. Well, they're now trying to play a different currency, which is to be effectively a rival royal family doing rival royal tours, while several senior members of the family here are incapacitated. I think it stinks. But how is this playing in America?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. They are two very polarizing individuals. And their only commercial success in the States was Spare and the Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary, both of those entities tearing apart the British royal family. When you look at Live to Lead or Heart of Invictus, commercial flops here in the States.
Perfect.
So I do think that their new PR advisors are telling them, why did people fall in love with you in the first place? You've got to remind them when and how they fell in love with you. So they've created this faux royal tour. So they get those visuals and those, you know, that is marketing material that they can use going forward to present themselves as at least associated with the royal family, which is their really only claim to fame. They need that so that they can try to develop this lifestyle brand in American Riviera Orchard. and try to get people interested in this content that's coming up on Netflix, where Netflix has again insisted that they are in front of the camera. Yeah,
I mean, Sarah, the problem it seems to me is, and actually you guys have touched on this already about the clash of schedules. The schedules of the royal family, as you know from covering them for so long, they're extremely carefully planned.
Well, they're meant to be.
So
not always.
Yeah, it doesn't always work, but historically they do it so they don't overlap each other. Yeah. So Charles will have his week where this is announced. Well, good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Reviews for Harry and Meghan's big budget Netflix series have so far been less than kind. Unimaginative and frustrating, said Hollywood's Bible Variety magazine. So sickening, I almost brought up my breakfast, said the woke Bible The Guardian. Or the intimacy of Instagram, sneered the normally timid New York Times. A nauseating self-serving snooze fest, said another pundit. Well, that was me, actually. Now, against this deluge of derision, Netflix today released a new trailer for the second half of this compelling series, which comes out on Thursday. Viewer discretion is advised. This clip contains weapons-grade hypocrisy.
I wonder what would have happened to us had we not got out when we did.
Our security was being pulled. Everyone in the world knew where we were.
I said that we need to get out of here.
Hi.
We are on the Freedom Flight. To see this institutional gaslighting.
I wasn't being thrown to the wolves, I was being fed to the wolves.
They were actively recruiting people to disseminate disinformation.
They were happy to lie to protect my brother. They were never willing to tell the truth to protect us.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
The rogue royals.
They just wanted to be free. They wanted to be free to love and be happy. I applauded that.
In order for us to be able to move to the next chapter, you got to finish the first chapter.
It gave us a chance to create that home that we had always wanted.
I've always felt as though this was a fight worth fighting for.
Institutional gaslighting, says Harry. Do you think he even knows what that means? They were happy to lie to protect my brother. Who? The royals? Me? The media? Who is it? The irony is earth-shattering, isn't it? Harry and Meghan are the Duke and Duchess of gaslighting themselves. The entire show is a cynical attempt to manipulate viewers into questioning their own recollections of reality. And if we learned anything at all from the first 3 hours of this $100 million wine-a-thon, it's surely that this dismal duo wouldn't know the truth if it smacked them around their smug chops. Oh, yeah. Let's look at their truth versus the actual truth. Meghan moans that royal advisors forced her to uninvite her dear niece, Ashley, from the wedding, the only member of her family that she seemed to be still talking to.
How do we explain that this half-sister isn't invited to the wedding, but that the half-sister's daughter is? And so, with Ashley, the guidance at the time was to not have her come to our wedding.
Yeah, that was a lie. Impeccably placed royal sources told the Sunday Times no such guidance was ever given. And that was supposed to be the show's big example of how Meghan really cares very deeply about her family. So deeply that only one member of that family was at the wedding, her mother. Not even her favourite little niece, Ashley. Meghan also sees she got no advice on royal protocol, forcing her to learn how to be a princess all on her own.
Joining this family, I knew that there was a protocol for how things were done. There's no class and some person who goes sit like this, cross your legs like this, use this fork, don't do this, curtsy then, wear this kind of hat. Doesn't happen.
Another lie. And by the way, Meghan, if you don't like me calling you a liar, just sue me and we'll go through all this in court. The Sunday Times discovered she was actually handed a 30-point dossier, studiously researched, brimming with information and contacts. Meghan later simpers that she never wore bright colours to show respect, because she's all about respect.
So I was like, well, what's a color that they'll probably never wear? Camel, beige, white. So I wore a lot of muted tones, but it also was so I could just blend in. Like, I'm not trying to stand out here.
No, the last thing Meghan Markle would ever want to do is stand out. But it's all another lie. Photos taken by the evil, bigoted British press show her wearing pretty much every colour in the rainbow. The show opens with the claim that the royal family declined to comment on the series. That's another lie. The palace says it received one email from an unknown company, and attempts to verify it were flatly ignored. Even the story of their romance and engagement turns out to have been a series of whoppers. They told the BBC in 2017 they were set up by a mutual friend on a blind date. They told Netflix they met on Instagram. And what about Harry's modest proposal in their humble cottage kitchen?
It happened a few weeks ago, earlier this month, here at our cottage. Just a standard, typical night for us.
It's a cosy night. It was what we're doing, just roasting chicken and
Roasting
having
a chicken, trying to roast a chicken.
Trying to roast a chicken, and it was just an amazing surprise. It was so sweet.
An amazing surprise. It was so sweet. Well, according to Netflix, which is their show, it was actually a candlelit extravaganza in their walled garden. Right. And Meghan was so amazingly surprised, she managed to figure out what was happening and tell her friend about it before Harry even popped the question. A small little detail, but rather like their claim, or Meghan's claim, that they'd been secretly married by the Archbishop of Canterbury in their garden before, 3 days before, the big televised wedding, which also turned out not just to be untrue, but had it been true, would have led to the Archbishop of Canterbury being incarcerated in prison.